All right, here we are. Good morning. Today we are going to take our 20 minutes and talk about some practical tips for self-hypnosis. So these are some tips for people to start to do some of this work on your own. And I just want to preface it by saying, excuse me, hypnosis has a definition for people that it is, but when we use this word, it's actually way more expansive than maybe the definition of hypnosis that you're thinking of. So to me, when I use this word and when we do this practice and this change work, it is about listening in, calming yourself enough to hear other parts of yourself besides the logical brain that you're used to. Breathing so that you can calm your nervous system and calm your physical self. Noticing when a symptom comes up, instead of just saying it is, like just accepting that it is what it is, learning tools and words to question it, to navigate it, to invite it to the table, maybe give something that you've been pushing away for a long time love instead. And so these are the things that we do with practitioners in hypnosis sessions and a lot of other therapy practices. But these are things that you can do yourself. So besides doing a guided meditation in a particular way to get yourself in what you might think of as a hypnosis, there are some other things that can be done, I think, just with a focus, a mind, and attention to something, a way to question and a way to listen. So I'm curious, Pete, if you agree with that.
I do. This is one where I forget who coined the term hypnosis. I don't know if it was Braid or someone else. But before he died, they asked him, "Do you regret naming hypnosis hypnosis?" And he said yes, because he goes, it's such a misnomer for what it stands for. He goes, if he could go back in time when it really caught on, he would change it to monoideaism.
Okay. What is a
Because
monoideaism?
monoideaism, because what it is the ability to focus on one thing, right? The thing is, when we do hypnosis and why we do, whether it's the relaxation, whether it's eye closure, is to begin to teach your mind to focus only on what it's currently doing, not on all the other drama of the world, the anxiety, the stress, the frustrations. It's no, let's just focus on the eye. Let's just focus on the breathing. Let's focus on sensations you are feeling, one thing. And that for me changed a lot of how, I handle hypnosis, because it's not about being everywhere. It's about being here and present.
I love that. So for some practical tips for self-hypnosis with that in mind, do you have any off the top of your head to offer?
Yeah. And there's so many different things. The easiest ones are relaxing your eyes, right? That's probably the easiest muscles to actually relax and know they're relaxing, right? Because we all have the ability just to close them and go, okay, they're relaxed, so they naturally stay closed. That is an easy thing. Where if you go, oh man, I got to relax my whole body, we typically go, that's a lot, right? But it's easy to take a feeling and then to spread it out, right? When you get more used to it, you can do sensations in your hand, like which one feels heavier than the other. And being able to have that awareness that they both don't feel equal is a sign that you're going into that trance state.
So I noticed that when I tried that the other day, I did the relaxing of the eyes with the client and then letting that go from the top of your head and down. So I've also been for my own self-hypnosis using the eyes, and I have to keep doing it. But my first experience with it was there was it's kind of intangible, but there was a feeling that I felt kind of around here when I relaxed my eyes, and I felt like there's some power in this. And, you know, when you think about how do you experience the majority of your life, it's through your eyes consciously,
Yeah.
right? We really are using our eyes, the discretion, you know, like figuring out what things are. So I think that it has a lot of, you know, a lot of validity. Also, just relaxing your eyes. I mean, they're doing so much work throughout the day. And it's one of the first things you do when you try to meditate, right? Is close your eyes.
Yeah.
And then what's the second thing you do? You breathe.
For yeah, breathe. Like I said, it's noticing the rise and fall. And for us, we get taught to anchor things in. You know, and what better to anchor in relaxation with every inhale, and exhaling is releasing everything else.
Mhm.
Right now, I found for me, especially in the beginning, when people are like, "Pete, breathe in relaxation," and I'm like, "What?" like I don't even know what that means.
Right.
But what I found is, for me, it helped going, "What's a relaxing color?" Right? To me, it's a very light blue, like sky blue. And I can imagine breathing in that sky blue, which ultimately relaxes me. Because consciously, yes, I may not know what relaxing means, but my mind goes, oh, I know that feeling from that light color blue, then it can do it naturally. Right. And then exhaling everything else is like flames. Like that's how my mind pictures it. It's flames coming out of my nose and mouth when I exhale. And that works for me. Right. And so, yeah, that's the other big part of it, is being able to bring in a feeling and let go of everything else.
Can you give some more examples of bringing in a feeling and letting go of everything else?
Yeah. So this is one when we think about, I say in general terms, we go, don't think about, the number 3. Whatever you do, don't think about the number 3. You can only focus on that 3. But if I said focus on the number 7 and only focus on the number 7, 3 naturally disappears. And so when we think about bringing on a very specific feeling, whether it's relaxation, whether it's joy or happiness, or even anger, sadness, frustration, right? When we only bring that in, everything else gets pushed aside. Now, in the beginning, it may only get pushed aside for 5 minutes, and then it comes back. But that's because we're new at this, right? You keep going though, because 0 minutes to 5 minutes is a huge increase, right? So when you go, okay, so I'm going to bring in happiness, and I'm happy when I'm at the beach and I'm sitting there and I got the umbrella and it's like this warm yellow color, and I can't help but like smile because I'm fully bringing in that moment, that feeling. And when I only focus on that moment, everything else disappears.
And so, what is the reason that we'd want to do it, and what good does it do to think about a good feeling? What is it producing?
Yeah. So each feeling, if we break it down to like 2 different things, it's either going to produce adrenaline
Mm.
or endorphins, you
Ah,
know?
okay.
And so endorphins usually get attached to good feelings. The adrenaline usually gets attached to the less than positive feelings, right? Like
Right.
fear, we get like amped, right? Or we get, energy kind of surging through us. And so what we're doing is we're now controlling our emotional state to either release adrenaline or endorphins. Now, without going into and practicing self-hypnosis, this is happening already, but we're not in control of it,
Right.
right?
So that's the difference. So, that's really the difference. And I just want to say, like, in relation to this the title and today's topic of practical tips for self-hypnosis, one of the things that this is doing is giving us tools to be in control of something that's already happening, choosing the focus and choosing the path. Because I know for myself, and I know I'm not alone, so many people just think whatever's happening in life is just happening to me. And these experiences and suggestions are giving us opportunities to actually be a participant in our life, in our feelings, in which chemicals are literally being triggered to go through our body, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it ultimately plays the biggest difference. So if we think about our lives, if we're anxious, everything we see around us is going to be seen through that lens of anxiety, right? Which means we go to work, we feel anxious. We come home, we feel anxious. We, take a shower, we feel anxious. We take a nap, we feel anxious. We're seeing the whole world through that lens. And when you can begin to shift it going, well, I don't need to feel anxious all the time. Maybe sometimes. Dark alley, 2 a.m., perfect time to feel anxious. Middle of the day, you're in your cubicle at work, not a good time, right? There's nothing there that is really a reason for anxiety. And so when we can begin to go, okay, I'm going to bring in that happiness, that calmness, that sense of in control, and we put on those lenses, now the whole world around us changes, right? Not physically, it's still the same stuff, but the way we perceive it is very different.
And so that's my question, is in that exact moment where in reality in your life it is as it is, right? So then you go into your mind and you try to feel this feeling. What is the point of that and what is it doing?
Yeah. So if we think of the universal laws, the big one for this is the law of polarity, right? It is everything just is. Our emotions and our beliefs is what gives it meaning. So if we are feeling anxious, we will automatically give the same situation a negative connotation, right? It won't be a good event. If we go into it going, okay, I'm going to see this as, being joyful, then the event, your mind will find all the joyful things in that moment, right? It's why, and I love it when we go see movies with our friends, right? Some of us leave going, oh my God, that was the best movie ever. I can't believe this happened. And then someone else in the same group be like, it wasn't that good. Did they see different movies? Right? It's, well, no, one, they just went in with different lenses. Maybe one just went in with an open mind lens. And so when something happened, they're like, whoa, where the other one went in with an expectation. And then it didn't meet that expectation. So they're like, it could have been better. But the movie's still the movie. It doesn't change per person. It doesn't change per viewing. It's always the same. Yeah.
I like this idea of an open mind lens versus expectation.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. For me, and you hear all the time, I say from the gurus and the self-help people, remove expectations, right? But ultimately, what does that mean, right? Because we go, well, I expect to do good in what I do. I expect to never give up. And they're like, yeah, do that. But then they're like, but don't have expectations. Just kind of go in. And honestly, it took me a long time. And there's times where I still have to catch myself where I'll have certain expectations. And when we can take every moment in our life, right? So like today, you can see I have my daughter with me. I'm waiting for a delivery for new furniture. And if I came in here going, I have the expectation that I'm going to have pure silence. I'm going to have, the best time ever. So focused. I would leave this going, oh my God, she's in the background. She's coloring, she's drawing, she's being a 5-year-old. Right. And I would leave disappointed. Or I go, you know what? Maybe she's going to do something amazing back there that I don't even know. I don't know. That to me is a no expectation. Maybe she's going to come over and she's going to say the most insightful thing in the world out of us, the mouth of babes type of thing. And I get to go, wow, that wouldn't have happened if she wasn't here. Or maybe she just has fun and I have fun. whatever lens we go into it will ultimately determine the outcome.
The other thing that I'm really noticing is that it's not expectation versus no expectation. It's actually open mind versus expectation. And I feel like that's a good distinction.
When you put it like that, yes. I never thought about it that way. But yes, I think that's a better way to word it.
You worded it that way.
Yeah.
But I was noticing that it wasn't no expectation. It was
Open-minded,
which feels, very different. And in that regard, what about so just getting back to the practical tips for self-hypnosis. Okay, we have, I'm just going to try to find this here. We have to relax your eyes, starting with relaxing your eyes and just feeling that feeling there. We can kind of give a few more tips about that. And then breathing and actually the noticing of the rise and fall.
Yeah.
And then from there to bring in a feeling and let go of everything else. And the reason to bring in a feeling, more likely than not, you want a good feeling. But I thought there might be someone who's trying to, get motivated or pumped up for, something. So maybe they want to bring in, a feeling that's not relaxing, but that when you bring in a feeling, it's going to bring in adrenaline or endorphins. So even though while you're going through this experience, the outside world hasn't changed, in your inside world, if you are pumped full of adrenaline and, all these things that are hard, maybe just some good feelings is just going to really be good for your biology, let alone every other aspect.
Yep.
Every other aspect of you.
Yeah. And it's amazing when you bring in like whatever feeling it is. I've learned that if you can just focus on it and listen to it, I say more listen than focus, you will feel and see your true motive and belief in behind things. Now, sometimes it's in that moment. Sometimes it's bam, clear as day, right then and there. Other times it's hours later or days later. And then all of a sudden something happens, you go, that's what that meant.
And I have to say too, I think, potentially the power of taking this time to relax and breathe and notice, bringing in a feeling, allowing different chemicals to come into your body through thought and feeling. That's scientific. You can research it. With that, I imagine that as those chemicals change, your brain also has a chance to maybe think or feel differently. If you're in a place of fear, fight or flight, or indecision, or any of the feelings that are really uncomfortable, just the action of taking these steps of bringing some of those good feelings in, I would just imagine as you mix things up, things always change. Acidity, sweetness, this and that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen to what comes in, right? Because this is so important. I'll use a perfect example of someone I saw yesterday for the first time. He was going through a lot of anxious feelings. He's probably read 100 self-help books. And he was still in the same spot. And I asked him, I said, what message is this anxious feeling giving you? And he just stopped and he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, have you talked with it? He goes, no, I just push it away. And it goes, well, when you push it away, what happens? He goes, oh, it just gets bigger. And then it overpowers me and it takes me out for 3 days. Yeah. Now, I wonder what would happen is if when it first came in, you just stopped. You closed your eyes and you went inside and you just listened to it. To feel, to hear what it's just trying to tell you. Is it saying, hey, I perceive a danger. And you get to have that communication with it going, this isn't a real perceived danger. This is based on something in the past and the past is over. Or maybe it is a real perceived danger, like being on the edge of a cliff, right? Where it goes, hey, if we take one more step, we're going to fall, but you have to listen to it. You have to let that thought come in. You have to give it that respect of not fear or anxious or I don't want to deal with it, but the loving kindness we would with any child who just doesn't know any better yet.
So I have to just share something so interesting. Someone that I know is, we were talking and they were expressing their whole life and world. And I said, I'm sure you've met your inner child, right? What do you, and she's like, oh man, she is just like so annoying. I've given her everything she wants. It's like, isn't there enough? Haven't I given you everything you need? And I thought, isn't that so interesting? Like, yeah, you can give them all what you think they need, but if you still think that they're annoying or you're frustrated by them, there might be some more compassion and love that you're going to need to give to that being, and maybe that's something that we can talk about, next week, is that the inner child and, the importance of it, because I think that there's certain people, certainly, that just would think that the inner child is, something that, only has relevance if you believe in it. But I would say there's many words that you can call that inner child. But the fact is there are memories that come from where you came from. And part of where you came from was your childhood, which developed you. And I mean, memories do everything to people. You can cause your heart to go, can cause your blood pressure to rise, can cause anything, right? So whether it's just childhood memory or inner child, however you want to put it, there is
There's a
there is
lot to it.
relationship, like dynamic and even um, um, repair or change in thinking that will be helpful to one's growth, right?
Yeah, one thing I've been working on lately is the relationship between our inner child, and depending on like if you're religious or not, it could be the universal mind, it could be God, it could be our higher self. There's a connection between the two that I've been doing, like reading, and it's like the most happiest, successful, prosperous people in the world, right? Whether it's in relationships, health, money, they had a better relationship with both their inner child and their ultimate mind, right? The universal mind, right? They've had a good relationship. They let both of them talk to each other to go, hey, this is going to happen. If you hold on to this belief, we can never get here. So what can we do to work together to make sure when it happens, we're going to be okay? You know? And then it really gets released, because we look at ourselves as just, oh, this is what I am. It's like, well, no, we're so many things.
That is exactly what I was about to say, is that, I think that's another great tip, is to remember that you are all the pieces of yourself before, now, and after, right? And so that is really one of the importances of integration, paying attention, and also love heals. Hate has never, ever, ever, ever healed. Although sometimes, of course, it's it's present.
It feels good in the moment.
Sometimes, right? Okay, so we're at the 20-minute mark. There is one other thing I'd like to bring up if we have a few more moments before your doorbell rings. So we had talked about, there was one other tip and I lost it. So we had talked about relaxing the eyes, breathing, noticing the rise and fall, bringing in a feeling, and to really like give it attention, focus on it, and let everything else go. Noticing bringing in this feeling will bring in chemicals, and it depends on which ones you're trying to bring in, and that we have the ability to participate in our life, the universal law of polarity, and the difference between the open mind lens versus expectation, and the power of listening into yourself. And I can't remember the other tip I wanted to talk about with you, so I'll just have to bring it in next time if that's possible, that it comes back. So people who are listening now and, later, try some of these things and, notice or know that you don't need to have 10, 15, 20 minutes to sit down on your meditation pillow or in a quiet space to do this. Like, that is one way, and it is just one way out of many. You can do it while you're driving, you can do it while you're walking, you can do it in a moment that you're feeling frustrated. And, you can note it, you can say, oh, this is a moment I feel frustrated. Let me just take notice my breath for a minute here and just like pay attention to the feeling and see if I can bring in another one. Which of course, brings up the anchoring in our bodies. As another great tip. Should we take a few minutes and just bring it up?
The anchoring in our body.
Yeah, like a easy one, quick thing, and we can go into depth another time.
Yeah.
Just an easy tip of how to anchor. For example, you're driving, you're walking, something's going on, or you have a common thing where anxiety rises. So for
Yep.
me, for example, when I have anchored into my body and my mind, that when my anxiety rises, that's my body and mind's an immediate reminder to relax, and everything goes down, and it works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really can be anchored to anything, which is amazing, right? I say a lot of times what a lot of people do, they'll anchor it to pinching your fingers together. And so what you'll do is, let's say it is the just happy feelings or confidence, right? That's probably the biggest one, where you think of a time when you were confident. Now, I want everyone that does hear this to know that you have confidence, even if you don't recognize it now, because it takes confidence to walk, it takes confidence to drive, it takes confidence to work, it takes confidence to speak. We have moments in our lives where we couldn't do any of those things, and now we just do them so well we take it for granted. Like, that's called confidence. Yeah. And so you can think about those times, those moments, to go, as I think about when I squeeze my finger together, you see all of it going down your arm to your hands, connecting, and then you feel it. And then when you let go, you stop that feeling. You just change the picture to whatever. And then you think of it back and you pinch them down and see it going down into your arms. Practice that 5, 6 times, 10 if you want to be ambitious. And then whenever you just want to feel that good feeling outside of self-hypnosis, just press them together and just notice the feeling begin to spread throughout your body, right? What a lot of us do is we wait till the moment we need it without the practice. But practice builds confidence. And so you have to practice when you don't need it, so it will be there when you do.
Awesome. I love that. And that's so true for everything. So try your anchoring, people who are listening, and do it when you don't need it so that it works better when you do need it. And ask us any questions that you need, either through DM or on the comments, and we will continue next week.
Yes.
So thank you, everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you.